Hello everyone and welcome to the debut episode of a very special series that I have been wanting to do for a long time, and I'm so excited that it's finally happening, and that is the Sims Community Superstars, and that's as catchy as I could come up with. This is going to be an interview-based video series where I virtually sit down with well-known figures in the Sims community who have played significant roles in shaping the way that players have engaged with The Sims over the years. The Sims franchise has a strong heritage of the community informing and being a crucial part of its development and how people play the game and this dynamic interaction between the two. And in this 20th anniversary month, of this 20th anniversary year, I don't think there's any more fitting time to start a series like this. If you like this video, please don't forget to let me know by leaving a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of the future episodes on who we might be sitting down with next on this series of Sims Community Superstars. And I am so excited for our first guests, plural, and to be honest, it may not even come as a surprise to some of you. I was surprised just the fact that they would be able to have the time to sit down with me and have this interview. But given that my channel has such a heavy focus on legacy related things, whether it be the Legacy Edition or in this case the Legacy Challenge, I had to reach out to these Simmers first because they have been pivotal in the development of the Sims community over the years. These Simmers have left a legacy of their own in pioneering an entire genre of Sims challenges. And I mean, the Sims Legacy Challenge as a whole is so well integrated into the history of The Sims that there's even an official title for it on the Sims forum that has a pinned post of one of the co-founders of the challenge. So without further ado, I bring you the founders of the Sims Legacy Challenges, as well as other challenges, Pinstar and Mystic. Mystic and Pinstar, it's so lovely to have you here.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Indeed.
So just like to let everyone know a little bit about you and your introduction into The Sims in general.
Well, for me, I got started in The Sims 1 back when it released. I've been playing since then, and Pinstar and I actually met through The Sims 2. We met through the Legacy Challenge specifically. I contacted him because at the time he was selling shirts for the Legacy Challenge, okay. But then he stopped. And so I wanted a shirt and I contacted him and I'm like, do you still have any? And then it just kind of took off from there.
The shirts did not do very well. I sold 5, but it came with a future wife, so I'd say the whole endeavor was worth it.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing.
As far as me getting into The Sims, I have been from the inception a Maxis fanboy, all the way back to the original Sim City, Sim Earth, Sim Ant, Sim Health. Take a look at that one. That's one of the obscure ones.
Interesting.
But basically anything made by or involved with Will Wright and Sim whatever, I dove into because that was kind of my jam. So when they announced The Sims, the original Sims, I'm like, huh, interesting. Well, let me take a look. And well, the rest is kind of history.
Well, that's fantastic. So you've both actually been in the franchise from the very beginning.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All 20 years of it.
All 20 years, this entire thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So you've actually both had the opportunity to see the Sims develop, make progress, make regress, if you want to say that way.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Little column A, little column B.
I think it's probably why we're a little bit harder on The Sims 4 than some people are, because we've been in it for as long as we have been.
We know what the genre and the framework of the game is capable of. And a lot of the focus that I've seen them put onto the game is not in the kind of things that I think made lightning strike with The Sims 1 and especially with The Sims 2.
No, definitely. Yep. And I'm looking forward to getting much deeper into this because, yeah, as a fellow Sims 1er myself, it's I took a break from The Sims because of The Sims 4, and and
Same.
I think it's a related.
I have not been as active with the game myself, admittedly, but I do keep up on what they're doing, and sort of, if there's something that appears that will, pique my interest, I will certainly be diving head first back into it.
And just from a point of view, like with creating challenges, it's not the Legacy Challenge isn't the only challenge you've created.
Oh no, there's a whole
tell us
bunch
more
of them.
about that.
So besides the Legacy Challenge, I think my second most famous challenge is the Apocalypse Challenge. And that came out with the release of the University expansion pack for The Sims 2.
Okay.
I saw the framework of a challenge being that you could start in university and then go home. You'd sort of have like a warm-up period where it's kind of easier, and then you basically need to make the most of that time to master your founder, because when you get home it's going to be as hard as nails. And then, the whole strategic unlocking of different careers and lifting of the specific restrictions. I thought it took the simulation game and turned it into a quasi-strategy game, because, getting more children would eventually allow you to unlock more stuff as they reach the top of their career, but then you still got to feed them and care for them, and with all the other restrictions in place. So you couldn't just go wild breeding a house full of 8 Sims, because you wouldn't be able to survive until then. So it's a strategic balancing act that I thought added a lot of challenge that people seem to appreciate.
No, definitely. I think even I've gotten requests to do a guide on your Apocalypse Challenge just because of how popular it is.
I've never actually done that one because it's just too much for me.
And I tried updating it for like The Sims 3 and The Sims 4, but the frameworks aren't there. No. It doesn't have that same thing, that same, part A, part B. And there's so many things in the world that are so forgiving. That, unless I completely block everything off, you can get along pretty comfortably with almost nothing just because of all the extra things they've added. Yeah. So I haven't really tried to update that for that reason. The other challenge that I've made and I really like is the Wonder Child challenge. Because the whole, limited time frame from birth to young adult and being able to squeeze as much as possible in there made me wonder, like, can you max out everything? Can you max out all of the aspirations? Can you max out skills? Can you get all these checkboxes done before the kid grows up? So that was the inspiration for that challenge. And again, a strategic thing, because you need to focus your family and strategically plan out basically every minute of this kid's day, from birth to young adulthood.
And actually, we need to update it for university.
We do.
I wanted to ask, actually, when did you start the Wonder Sim Challenge?
The Wonder Child Challenge,
4.
that was native to Sims 4, because the Sims 4 had a better framework for that. It, the whole different aspirations for children that were unique from the adult aspirations allowed you to have a child-specific and teenage-specific set of challenges that you need to meet in a very limited time frame. With teenage jobs, you had another goal that you needed to try to max out. That was, actually doable. A teenager can get to the top level of a teenager career, whereas, if teens had adult jobs, you couldn't get to level 10 by the time they grew into a young adult. So, the frameworks all just kind of fell into place. You got the whole birthday mechanic and the gold stars or gold medals. I forget what they call it if you do those right. So
medals, I think.
Yeah. So the birthdays sort of punctuate the whole challenge and give you a part where, like, if you got a perfect run so far, can you get that next gold? And parties can be a little chaotic. Yeah. So, it adds a little bit of risk and challenge to the challenge that otherwise might be a paint by number, skill up and career up.
And The Sims 4 definitely has more than enough skills to try.
Oh yeah.
They're adding more, it seems.
Yeah, I don't know when it'll ever stop. I think that last time I counted, there were at least 40 different skills.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And what has been your experience? Because you've, Pinstar, like in particular, you've said things like framework, like which games have made better frameworks. Like in both of your experiences, what is each of the games' frameworks lent them to, both from like what the game is on its own independently and what you can add to it from a challenge point of view?
Well, as far as the frameworks go, I mean, the games have their own built-in challenges, and that has unfortunately been on the decline as the series progresses. Like if you boot up The Sims 1 unmodded, no expansion packs, just plain vanilla Sims
so hard.
1, it is hard.
I recently played it and like I forgot how hard it was.
I mean, like you know, I remember taking a job in the politics career, and I got higher up, and it's like you need 12 family friends to get to the next level, and I'm like, there aren't enough people in existence. I need to make entire families, move them in, just so that my sim can befriend them, and then get to the next level. I mean, that was hard.
But it's even just keeping the Sims alive.
Oh yeah, keeping it alive, keeping their moods up. So many things. The light bulbs, the rogue light bulbs, where a light would go out and all you have to do is change the bulb, but there's a little bit of chance that your sim would just get electrocuted to death from changing a light bulb. So there's always that persistent risk of death there.
Everyday living was the thrill of the chase there.
Yes. But then you get to Sims 2, it gives you a few more tools, but it still keeps the challenge on there because you've got the aspiration meter, this meter that is always decaying. And, you have these fears that you have to avoid, and you have to regularly hit once in order to keep that meter into a reasonable level. Otherwise, your Sim's going to start to lose it. So while it was not quite as lethal as The Sims 1, it gave, it keeps the challenge in another way. And the whole fact that Sims can, give birth, grow up, grow old, die, and have the next generation come through. I mean, the legacy challenge wouldn't work on The Sims 1, but The Sims 2 absolutely laid the foundation for that. And it does the needed thing of keeping the family fresh. If you have, a single Sim in the family forever, they can kind of overstay their welcome, or it can get a little stale. Whereas, if eventually they die off and now you have the grown-up children, which are going to be a little bit different. And, in The Sims 2, they really, the personality matrix really had a lot of impacts on the game. If you had a completely lazy Sim, that was a very different experience than a very high-energy Sim. And you kind of had to plan things out and, direct them into do different things differently. So it added some strategic considerations, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. And then, I think The Sims 3 and The Sims 4, every single step of the way, they added ways to make the game easier, more accessible, which is fine by itself. But, the way I like to play The Sims, I like a challenge. I like the game to have teeth. And so, there are fewer and fewer failure states that you could get into with 3 and especially with 4. So, that's kind of when you needed to put the challenges, even more, restrictive, or at least more challenging, because there's so few natural challenges in the game that you need to slap down either some difficult to attain goals or some restrictions to stave off the things that make things way too easy.
The Sims 4, I think, was notorious in my books, and at least from a community of people who have been playing The Sims for such a long time, for being too easy, and for being, even though the age restriction is 13 plus, it felt like it was accessible to my 3-year-old nephews. And
Oh yeah, our kids play it all the time, and they're 9 and 7, so exactly. They can figure it out.
And I'm not one of those types that say like, oh, it's too easy, we got to keep the casuals out. No, this is a casual game. Yeah. I will give them that. And I mean, you had, even from The Sims 1, cheat codes, Motherlode, Ka-ching, Rosebud. I don't know if that's in the more modern ones.
I don't think Rosebud's still around.
I don't play with the cheats, so
neither do I.
Motherlode is there for sure.
But they're there for a reason. They're there for people who don't, I don't want to have to spend 30 in-game days getting to the top of a career and amassing a bunch of money to make this big mansion I want. I just want to build a mansion. Well, go ahead, motherload, build your mansion. That's how you want to play the game.
Yeah.
But you know, stripping out natural difficulty, you know, from the game itself, you know, now there isn't natural difficulty for those who want to be challenged by the game by itself. And then with every expansion pack they release, it gets easier and easier and easier because they got to say, oh, you know, this one thing might have been difficult, but now you have magic and you can just summon up some food or you know, teleport around or, you know, make things that were already kind of easy even easier, which I think works to the detriment of the expansion packs, mainly because it's, you know, it doesn't take much to get out of, you know, get benefits out of them, and it makes things that didn't need to be made easier even easier.
Although I did have magic set my shower on fire the other day.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I mean, admittedly they do put in some things that can go wrong, or at least a challenge on the rise to getting these higher benefits. But at the end of the day, once you've got those benefits, the game is even easier, and it was already fairly easy to begin with.
Yeah. My actual issue with it is not so much the easiness, it's the Sims themselves, because like they always are saying that the Sims are more social, they're more like smarter. And I don't know, like going back and playing Sims 2, I feel like there's so much more personality there.
Oh, absolutely.
And that a lot of what made the Sims has kind of been taken out, and it's just, I don't know, now they just kind of seem like they're just kind of cruising through life as opposed to like, you know, having like an actual story.
Exactly. The attraction system from Hot Date.
Yeah.
That was the pinnacle of, that's an expansion, that's a feature added properly. You know, it made it so that some Sims, yes, could get fall in love easier, and you had a limited control over what your Sim was looking for, but that's no guarantee that the Sim you're looking to woo was into your Sim based on their attributes. So you have these unique dichotomies where, like, you know, this one Sim that you had no interest in as a player is suddenly has the burning hots for your Sim, and so you're like, all right, do we you know, settle for this person, or do I try to force the relationship even though it has a negative lightning bolt and the two Sims really don't want to be together? It gave it personality.
Definitely.
You know, and there wasn't some big overarching, like, you know, your Sim is hot for everybody, and, you know, like, there's no instant win button. There were some people that they got along with, others not. That's the kind of thing that I like to see.
Actually, one of the other things about The Sims 4 is, like, you can go from, like, just not even knowing the Sim to being married to the Sim within the span of a Sim day. And like, I feel like that was way more impossible to do in The Sims 2. And even The Sims 3, and definitely not The Sims 1. Like that took a lot of work to just get somebody to even talk to you.
a micro little challenge for myself, and I do this when I explore the games, is, you know, I send a male Sim to the park, and I find some random, you know, woman, and just have them converse, and I want to see if I can get their relationship before my Sims or their Sims needs tank, you know, go from 0 to let's go woohoo in the bushes in one standing. And more often than not, it actually is feasible, which is kind of, I mean, I could see the game going for like one night stands and, you know, stranger hookups, but still, that's pretty quick and easy on that.
Yeah.
Definitely an accelerated relationship. And I think especially in The Sims 4 in particular, when you exploit the mood and the emotion system, that's when things get really crazy.
Some of the reward perks make it even easier.
And actually, Magic added a whole like potion that makes you basically instant friends with somebody, which I actually just tested yesterday. And it was it went from like this Sim who wouldn't even talk to my Sim to like they were best friends. And it was a little OP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one of the, I'm not sure like how, I'm assuming you're familiar with Carl Sims guides.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've all been around for a while.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
definitely hoping he's gonna be a future guest on this show as well. But he released a video recently just saying like how The Sims feels like a dollhouse. Like even though The Sims 1 was originally meant to be a dollhouse simulator, but this literally feels like you're taking your individual Sims and you're saying now kiss, basically.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Irrespective of what they look for or anything, like you said with the attraction system.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the previous... Whoops, I just spilled my coffee. The previous games seemed to have less of that dollhouse aspect, for sure. It was a lot more difficult to get what you wanted from your Sims, which I think was good.
I think the one thing where The Sims 4 has excelled has definitely been in its build, buy, and create.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Wow, I think especially like if you go back and like try and build a house in The Sims 2, it is probably one of the most frustrating
Oh, yeah.
experiences.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. You know, the builders, I think the game has been keeping up with, and to its credit, I will give you that. I'm not a huge builder myself, but I don't begrudge attention being given to, you know, additional modes with building, you know, basements, higher tier floors, the adjustable windows. If only they could get spiral staircases in there.
Yeah.
That would be way too much to ask for in all of this.
I know, right? But yeah, the building is great in The Sims 4, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean,
I'm not much of a builder either, but I do like building in The Sims 4, as
And
opposed to the other
sometimes you
games.
have an idea, you want to be able to do it.
yeah, as
you know,
simply and
you
with
know.
as little friction as possible, I guess. Like even for me as well,
Exactly.
I'll extend onto my Sims house, but the fact that you can just like lift a whole building and move it
Yes.
a few blocks is just mind-boggling. I remember crying real tears as a young teenager when my Sims 2 lot was a few blocks off to the side too far.
Oh, God.
At the very
Because then
end
you
of
have
the
to literally get rid of the whole house to move
Yeah.
it. It's the worst. I've been there.
And
Yep.
yeah, I mean, one of the Sims 4 I think has done its thing, I guess, in establishing a player base that uses build and creatism. But it's part of the reason why I haven't quite like jumped too much on board with Paralives just yet. Because Paralives thus far has just been a build simulator.
Yeah, so far that's all we've seen. And I mean, maybe they'll show us some more like actual simulation part of it, but we haven't seen a lot of that yet. And I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, that building is cool, but
yeah,
you know, where's the rest?
mean, so here's my take on Paralives. I am always the type to give an indie the benefit of the doubt. I'm not saying right here Paralives is going to be the bee's knees and it's going to blow the Sims out of the water. I can tell you The Sims is going to be The Sims with or without Paralives. But you know, the question becomes, and I don't have the answer to this, is this going to be like a Stardew Valley to
Harvest Moon?
To Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
You know, is this going to be a City Skylines to Sim City? You know, in both of those cases, the original holder of the franchise got a little complicit. In the case of SimCity, a lot of complicit, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I could rant for a full hour on that.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
But you know, so here comes these you know, newcomers in the same genre that have these bold new ideas. They're willing to take the risks. They're willing to listen to the fan base. And they're not overburdened by executives saying like, oh, we need to, you know, squeeze in these microtransactions and, you know, maybe having, you know, some kind of DRM always online nonsense. You know, there's a level of executive meddling. I can tell you, when I was in the Sims camp for the Sims 4, before the Sims game even came out, you know, this was hot off the heels of the SimCity disaster. And I can tell you from the earlier build, there was evidence that they were planning on making The Sims 4 a forced required online thing. And when they saw how badly the SimCity did, they very quickly ripped that out of the game. But there was still evidence and scars of that. The fact that you can't design your own worlds and you know, things are set in place. They were originally hard-coded because they were going to be multiplayer lobbies.
Wow.
You know, that's, you know, obviously they've gone far away from that. They learned their lesson.
Yeah, but isn't there a rumor that Sims 5 might be multiplayer?
Well, and that, yeah. And all the more reason that I want Paralives to do well. Now, when I say Paralives do well, I don't want to say, oh, I want to see the downfall of the Sims franchise. I want to see them crash and burn. No, I don't. Nor do I want to see Paralives fail. I want healthy competition. I want this, upstart to come up with some new ideas that people are like, hey, that's pretty fun. Hey, Sims, why aren't you doing that? We like doing that. Can you take that really cool idea and wrap it in your much higher production value game? Because then we'd have our cake and eat it too. And then it's on to the Sims if they want to actually try and march step with Paralives, or if they're just content to put out my cool fashion pack number 5.
Yeah. We're hoping that the competition will actually give Sims a reason to step up their game a little bit.
It definitely highlights the unjustness to the consumer, I guess, when there's a monopoly in a genre, because there has been nothing like The Sims. Anything that's been a multiplayer, I think, has just been perverted on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Any simulation like life. So The Sims is going to have to work really hard to not fall down there if they really want to take The Sims 5 there.
Yeah, I mean, step 1, make it optional. Step 2, don't cannibalize the single player content just to enable the multiplayer stuff. You're going to have people who do not ever want to play with another player, and that's just their choice. They just want to do their Sims. They don't want some, even if you can restrict it to people on a friends list or something, that they don't want, some other person diving in and doing stuff with it, their house or their Sims or their family, what have you. I can understand the appeal for that for those who are looking for it. I was actually in the original beta test of The Sims Online, and that was an interesting beast. I have to say I enjoyed my time with that, but that's a game that was entirely made from the ground up to be multiplayer. Yeah. So there was no, pretense of we have single player too. No, not really. But they built the game framework to support that. So that made it a little bit better. Here, you have this franchise that is traditionally a single player game. And if they're going to go with The Sims 5, people are going to expect that same single player experience. And if that gets, cast to the wayside or overshadowed by the multiplayer, I think it's going to be a little messy.
Yeah, people are not going to be. Or just make, if you really want to do multiplayer, just do Sims Online too. Yeah. And then keep Sims 5 as Sims 5 so that there's no confusion as to which one is which. Although, I don't know, EA has a habit of going a little crazy with their multiplayer stuff. What was the name of that game that was, you could play it by yourself, but it was mostly multiplayer, and it's that space one that everybody hates? No, it just recently came out. Oh! Anthem. Yeah.
Well, see, the real big reason behind multiplayer is DRM, because back in the days of Secure ROM was their way of trying to lock games down, prevent piracy, all that stuff, and it the program did a lot of nasty stuff and prevented legitimate consumers from actually playing their game, so it got a real, and rightfully so, bad reputation. So the executives okay, we can't just saddle our games with a ton of DRM. So why don't we make it online required and spin that as a feature? Because now, by having to go online, they can do all those extra DRM checks on your connection to make sure you're playing a legit game, but still can advertise that it's play with your friends, play with strangers, yay! And you saw what happens with SimCity.
Yep.
Yeah, that was.
So it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I do not hope they go that route for the Sims 5, where the online component is really just an excuse for DRM, because we all saw what that did to my beloved SimCity franchise. I mean, that was the franchise I was playing as a child. The Super Nintendo, the original SimCity. Wow. That is what got me into gaming entirely, with strategy and simulation. That was the origin story of me as a gamer. And they completely butchered it using a game of the same freaking name. It was, sorry. I get a little emotional about that whole affair. But, you know, they killed my baby. Yeah. They killed Will Wright's baby. And we don't see much of him anymore. And that's a shame after what happened to Spore.
Like, where is he? What is he doing?
Like, he's not really around on social media at all. So, like, he founded a studio called Stupid Fun Club. Stupid Fun Club, right?
Because his Twitter handle is Stupid Fun Will. But I don't actually know if they've done anything or you know, I mean, it just might be for, you know, a holding company for some pet projects. But I have not seen anything of his hit the scene, even as an indie. You know, obviously without the backing of EA, he doesn't have the resources that he used to have. But still, I think they broke him. Will, please tell me otherwise if that's not the case. But after Spore, you could see it in his, you know, when he was originally demoing Spore and explaining it, you could see that this was going to be his magnum opus. You know, he was pouring his heart and soul into this thing. And from what, I don't have the full story, but my understanding is there was executive meddling, compromises, and it just kind of got stitched together and rushed out. And it's a shell of what it could have been. And, you know, all this thing that he had this idea for doesn't really work out, you know, for him. So, you know, I can't blame the guy.
I think a few years ago, actually, I'm not sure how long ago, there was an art competition that he was running. I can't tell you regarding a game that he might have been wanting to develop called like Memories or something. I speak under full correction here, but I remember there was a competition on DeviantArt or something where he was asking artists to submit concept and the whole idea was to go into an individual's like memories and like relive these memories. But it was so long ago, and I've heard nothing about it since then. So I really can't even.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, he really. It is a shame that he's just kind of fallen off the face of the earth almost.
In this time where you haven't really like felt that much of attachment to The Sims 4. I mean, I've seen both of your YouTube channels, and like, what other games have you been finding like as simulation and strategy gamers? Like, what have you been branching out into that you think have been quite fulfilling, challenging, but also rewarding games?
For me, Stardew Valley for sure. I mean, it's also kind of part RPG, but like I really like that because I was always a Harvest Moon fan growing up. And I just love that farming aspect, and Concerned Ape did a great job with all of that. And then honestly, like Sims 2. I've just been playing a lot of Sims 2 because it's my favorite and I love it and I'm never going to stop loving it. So like that's where I tend to go if I'm really wanting to scratch that simulation itch. It's usually Sims 2.
And for me, I branch out a little bit wider, you know, still in the simulation and strategy genre, Transport Fever, 2 Point Hospital, City Skylines, all sorts of you know, games in that relative, you know, genre. You know, but I also still occasionally, you know, go off and find games of new genres. Like I've recently been getting into Hades, which is a action roguelike, both of which are not normally my genre, but the game is so well done, I'm finding myself, you know, having a great time of it. Monster Sanctuary is kind of like a Pokemon-esque game, but it doesn't just carbon copy it the way that, what is it, Chim Chim, the other indie one did?
Temtem?
Temtem, thank you. Yeah. So I've been enjoying that, and that's more of an RPG mixed with some strategy in there. And, you know, I've been keeping, you know, there's some good management games out there. Industries of Titan is one I've had my eyes on for ages. So
Crusader Kings
3. I played Crusader Kings 2. Like, I have over 500 hours on that. I don't even know why I've never done a series for it. I'm just kind of holding out for 3 to do my series on it. But that's a strategy RPG, honestly. Well, grand strategy. And then you got Stellaris. How could I forget Stellaris? I've done tons of series on Stellaris. So, you know, all sorts of things. And like I said, if a Sims type game be it The Sims 5 or a really, really good expansion pack for 4 or Paralives or something of that genre comes onto the market, oh, it'll be on my channel. I look at and follow, the new releases. But so far, I just haven't seen anything that has inspired me to do a series on it recently.
I've really taken notes for all the games that you've both mentioned now, just in terms of like branching out as well. To like you said, Mystic, to scratch the simulation itch especially.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because
I actually have been playing more RPGs lately, just because that's kind of what I've been into. But yeah, for simulations, those are the two that I really just play. And Crusader Kings, I kind of got into that for a little while
I've been trying to bring her over to the strategy side.
Well, I think it's amazing that you have gaming at this as one of the central points in your relationship. It really is. That you get to share it and discuss it at that same level with one another.
Yeah,
we're both introverts at our heart. Like we don't, like if we were at a party, we're not going to just walk up to a stranger and fire up a random small talk conversation.
Yes.
We generally keep to ourselves, but having a gaming as our common interest, that's what allowed us to get to know each other and feel comfortable about talking to each other to grow closer as a couple. If we didn't share that, I don't know if we'd still be together, just because well no, I don't. Let me rephrase that. I think I know. I don't think we would have connected when we were first dating.
Okay.
I'm not going to cast aside if you stop playing games. I said that poorly. I was talking like a butterfly effect. If we didn't have that similar interest, we wouldn't have clicked. Because the whole shirt thing was based on the games, so you wouldn't have done that to me.
Sorry, I don't mean for these interviews to cause problems in marriage. This wasn't my intention.
No. I said that.
I think it was even a similar story, like with me and my husband. Like I thought, like when we first chatted, because he's very much introverted as well, and I'm a little bit more extroverted. And one of the things I thought would impress him is if I played Dota 2. I don't know why this was something that crossed my mind, but I was like, it's a pretty hardcore game. Hey, like I could get into that.
Yeah.
And I literally because we met at university, and I was like, I play this game if you want to play online sometime. And I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't even realize you could have like voice like audio happen. So when I heard when I heard him like trying to co-op with me, I had a number of heart attacks like subsequently.
Oh gosh.
But we haven't touched Dota like in all the years since then, which is probably been about 6 years or 7 years. But definitely I know what you mean, like when it's that initial string that like brings you both together, and then things kind of snowball from there.
I remember when we were dating, we were going to Six Flags theme park.
Okay.
And we were just waiting in line for like the log flume or something. And we were just chatting about our about gaming. And this was like early on in our relationship. And she, we were talking about computer specs. And I had a decent machine. I knew it wasn't a supercomputer, but it was enough to play lots of different games. And she was listing off what she had at the time, and her computer was like bleeding edge and like, holy crap, yours is so much more powerful than me. So, I knew at that point, it's like, whoa, she is a serious gamer. That's that. It was impressive, and we another topic to connect on, about computer hardware, and it's like, oh man, I gotta upgrade.
Gotta impress it with my graphics card now.
Well, exactly.
What resolution do you play at?
Yeah.
You know what they say about guys with a big graphics card.
And Mystic, what did you have your big graphics card?
I don't even remember.
I don't remember what it was. I just knew it was like a generation and a half ahead of what I had.
That's so. I think that's really beautiful, though. Like, in all honesty, like it really is. It goes to show like how much you need to be like close. Now this is getting to a relationships interview, evidently.
Yeah.
Evidently, but hey, guys, take notes for relationships, I guess.
Yeah, wait, that works.
You married me for my graphics card.
Yes, exactly. Dating strategy and tactics.
My husband, like, he appreciates that I love computers, but it's not the same like kind of relationship. So I'll show him the stuff and he'll like nod politely. He's more into consoles. So
okay.
So that's where he's very much, The Sims is to us what Pokemon is to him. So
I can respect that.
Yeah.
Deep into the lore, into the side games, into the main. I do try and engage though. Just he tries to engage with Sims.
Yep.
One of the things that I also just wanted to chat on, like, I'm not sure how much time you both still have. Now, I recently saw your blog posts that you're going to be restarting up The Sims 4 to have a look at the rules. Like, that, did that come out of a certain, like, stimulus? Did something happen?
Well, we were just kind of talking about it, and, like, we were feeling bad that we kind of just left it where it was. And, you know, a lot of stuff has been added that really adds to the game. I was actually really surprised with how much the tiny house living pack added. It's a stuff pack. I wasn't expecting that.
It's the first pack to embrace a restriction. You know, it's a pack that says, okay, we're going to add new things. We're going to give you some bonuses and perks, but you gotta obey a restriction.
I see how that appeals to
small living, I can get behind that. Yeah. I can, you see, like, that's the kind of direction I want to see. It was
actually the catalyst that kind of got us back into it.
Exactly.
We started seeing, like, what it was being added, and, like, we were getting questions and comments, like, what are you going to do about how, like, the perks are going to work? And I'm like, I didn't even know there were perks. So then I started looking into it, and I'm like, oh, maybe we should get back into this.
Exactly.
It added
like,
so much.
You know, magic, I sleep. Mermaids, I sleep. University that's not like University from The Sims 2, I sleep. But, you know, a pack that bakes in a challenge, you know, that's what I'm looking for. Like, back when they were doing some of the voting for fan packs, one of the things on there was off the grid.
Yes.
I was voting so hard for that. Because...
And then we got laundry day.
Yeah, we got laundry.
You want to do
but I mean, imagine off grid. You know, all the objects that depend on electricity or plumbing don't work unless you have like solar panels or a windmill or a septic tank.
I mean, they did add an off the grid perk, but it's not the same. Like, there's no
like.
They were gonna add like a canning machine. Like, I remember that. Sims 1, and that was one of my favorite objects in the Sims 1, and I was so excited that it could be possibly coming back. And then
they could take that into a real challenge mode and just run with it. But sadly, they did not.
So tiny living is kind of like
it's the closest to that.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like, what was the initial stimulus? I think one of the most difficult things about The Sims 4 is that in numbers, it's the most successful Sims game. Like, just based on sheer numbers, whether that's because they gave it to people for free or not, I'm not sure. But I think it's the demographic is so different. Like, there is a clear divide in older players and people just into the game and the genre as a whole. And like, I think challenges are such a foreign concept that the thought of even voting for something that would make a game harder, if it wasn't from the beginning, it's
for the younger crowd, that's probably not very appealing.
I mean, even our kids, you know, they will be building a house and, you know, they'll ask us, oh, what's the cheat code for that? And it's like, well, hey, if you give your sim a job and you know, wait a couple of days, you'll have enough for that.
That takes too long.
Yeah, that takes too long. This cheat code exists. Why don't use it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, here's the cheat code.
Breaking his heart with all of his challenges that don't use cheats, and his kids are like, what's that cheat code?
And I have to say, like, my whole crusade against cheats, and I'm not against it from a you know, like, you know, the game is bad for having cheats. I understand why they're there, but I never use them because the original Sim City I played, I loved, and then I discovered the cheat that allowed you to get 99999 money, and I lost my love for the game. It was no longer fun. Like, I built up this huge city in an instant, and I'm like, yay! Now what? It didn't feel as fun to build that up. It felt more like a chore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, luckily SimCity 2000 came out, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn it. No cheats. And that's kind of when I cemented that in my head. It's like, don't ruin a game with cheats. But that's just a personal view.
No, I think I agree. I don't think unless it was to start my recent legacy challenge, like to get their money to 0, I really don't use cheats. And I think it's just about there's so, especially in The Sims 4, just as a whole, there's so little challenge.
Exactly.
So little.
I think that was part of the reason we decided to step back too, because we were trying so hard to make things an added challenge, but then it was not really working.
Yeah, because the game
was
kept coming out with stuff. And one thing I learned was, and this was back in the Apocalypse challenge, they came out with the next expansion pack after University, which I think was Pets. And they added, pets and pet jobs. And I'm like, okay, I need to amend this challenge so that you have some new restrictions that could be
in Sims 2, you mean?
In The Sims 2, yeah. That could be, really, fixed with these pet jobs. But then they come up with another pack and another pack, and trying to update a challenge for every new pack that comes out, it becomes a nightmare, and the whole thing breaks down. So when a game becomes late in its thing, it's hard to write challenges for it because there are so many things that you have going for you, and so many options that you'd have to account for. That it's like, oh, you're not allowed to do this, and this, and then 5 packs come out, or it's like you also can't do this.
Yeah.
And if it's reading the rules, it becomes like a novel. It's an unfollowable mess.
I get what you're
so
saying,
it's the more things they give you and the more options you have, it's just harder to write the challenges for it, even though the gameplay is in more and more need of a challenge.
Yeah, it's a little hamster in the wheel kind of feeling, I guess. Can I please meet your dog? I love pets. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to get her to come.
Pets.
Aqua, come here.
Even if it's only through a computer.
Here, come here. Come here.
Hey, Aqua.
She's like, no. It's like, why? I don't want to be on camera. Aqua.
Oh, wow.
She's actually named after a character on Kingdom Hearts, which is one of my favorite RPGs.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah. Girl.
Hi, Aqua.
You gotta
can't
push
hear
it.
me, but hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm making a audio feedback there.
Yeah.
Oh, she really
She's
is
just
beautiful.
about to turn 1. So she's
she's
still
a
pretty young.
pupper,
But
basically.
yeah, she's a little baby.
Hey, you.
I don't know how the rest of my interviews are going to be, but I really hope that they all have pets. I'm actually it's a prerequisite. You have to be a big contributor to the community and have pets that I can see. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you both so much for your time. The fact that
No problem.
this interview, it's been so much fun to chat with like-minded people just about general things, what where you hope things are going to go, where things have been, what it's your experience been. And yeah, it's been such a privilege to interview you. Thank you both so much.
Yeah,
No
it
problem.
was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. No, that's awesome. Thank you again both so much.
Yeah,
No
you're
problem,
welcome.
no problem.
Further.
You too.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.